Being a straight F student my entire life, I never thought I would make 6 figures in a year. I now do that sometimes in a month. I'm going to be explaining how college would have prevented me from doing this, how I made it happen by selling the knowledge that already existed in my brain, and how any ambitious human can do this too. I promise I'm not just some special unicorn. I just took risks that most people can't stomach, and I was okay with failing a lot. If I'm going to prove that you're capable of doing this for yourself, I kind of have to explain where I started. Like I said, I was always a straight F student for my entire student career. I had a GPA of 0.7. My family came over here from Vietnam during the war, didn't have a lick of English, didn't have a dollar in their pocket, so I was nowhere near around any money at all. I never thought that 6 figures a year was anything possible for me to obtain. That's for people with good grades and people who went to college. The one thing I was always passionate in was music. I was doing music for so long, that was the one thing that I loved. I loved it so much that I remember getting a felony when I was 15 years old because I stole all the band equipment from my high school, just so that me and my band could practice. I would do anything for music at this point. I finally found a way to make it my career. I was able to produce for other artists, rappers, and I was able to sell sample packs to different music producers on the internet. But even then, I wasn't making truly the amount of money that I wanted to make. I had a few jobs. I worked at Kaiser, then I worked at Rite Aid as a cashier, then a pharmacy technician, and then I got a job at Kaiser Permanente as an IV technician, making about $70,000 a year, and I thought this was the pinnacle. At the time, this was so much money to me, it changed my entire life. But I was there for 5-6 years, and towards the end I was like, this can't be what I do for another 45 years. This is when I stumbled onto like these digital courses and different coaching programs. I just saw people making absurd amounts of money from things that they already knew. They just packaged it up and sold it on the internet. So I just looked at what I knew, and I knew music really well, but I had always thought in the back of my mind, musicians aren't gonna pay that much. They're all broke. There's no way they would pay me that much to teach them. I started diving into this world of coaching, and I heard of this thing called high ticket coaching. I was like, what is high ticket? Turns out high ticket's not low ticket. It's not cheap. It's expensive things. I loved the concept, but everyone that I saw was either teaching business, teaching other coaches, or doing something more valuable than what I thought music was to people. And then I started seeing people that I knew in the music industry. I stumbled on this one specific coach, and I started seeing some of his students were musicians who taught other people. And this really inspired me, because I was like, wait, they made how much money off of teaching music? There was people making like 10 grand, 20 grand, 30 grand a month. And that was like mind blowing to me at the time. So I kept digging, watching all this coach's content. And I remember having $1,000 in my bank account, and I was like, I'm gonna book a phone call with him. I'm gonna see what this is all about. I think I can make this happen. I scheduled the call, had a really good call with his salespeople. Then at the end, they dropped this price on me that was 10 times more than I thought I was gonna be paying at the end of that call. Basically, what I did was got really scared, started sweating, started panicking, and my mind was racing and just trying to figure out any excuse I could give them to just get off this phone call. I stayed on, threw some excuses at them. They just made really good points. And I just remember sitting in this moment of fear and thinking, if I don't do this, it's going to cost me a career, 45 more years at this job, making money, not making enough to where I can retire comfortably. I'll be living off of this savings off the government, whatever. And I compared that to the 10K investment. It's scary taking out a loan, borrowing money, putting it towards something that you don't know for sure is going to make a return or not. All I knew was I was confident in my skills, and if I put this money down, it's going to kick my booty into gear, and I'm going to do everything this coach says. And if I don't do it, I'm going to be missing out on so much more, and it's going to cost me so much more. So I pulled the trigger, took out a loan, took out money from savings, borrowed money from people, and I made it happen. I invested that money, and I got in the program. I did every single thing that coach told me to do, even if it was uncomfortable, because I had spent so much money. And that one decision is the only reason why I'm where I'm at today. If I would have just made one decision differently, it would have changed the trajectory of my life. I'd still be at that same job. I wouldn't be making this video, and I would have none of this lifestyle that I have now, including this brand new house that I'm sitting in. Another really tough decision almost any person who graduates from high school goes through is the decision to continue going to college and continue studying. The way that they train you is that is the only next step. That's the only path to take once you're done with high school. Do that or get a job. This is why, if I would have went to college, it would have prevented me from having this life I have now and making this money. I know that's 100% factual. I'm not saying college is bad. In fact, college is a good fit for most people. But if I'm talking to somebody who is ambitious on the other side of this lens, there's better ways to it than college. But if you're someone who can't stomach that roller coaster life where there's constant risk, constant ups, constant downs, then maybe college is for you. College would have prevented me from having this life because the more time you spend with something, the more feeling of an obligation you have to complete it. That's the same way with college. If you're 3 years in and you have 6 years to go, you're halfway. It's hard to give up now. I speak to a lot of people that want to start their own businesses, but they always say, I'll actually focus on this when I'm done with college. And then I ask them, what are you going to do with your college degree? And they're like, nothing, I want to start the business. So if you look at it from a logical standpoint, there's no reason they should finish college. I'm not saying to drop out, but I'm just saying like you're putting aside what you want ultimately at the end of the day, even when you're done with college, so that you can finish something you don't need. Why, if you plan on scrapping all of it, not using your degree, just obtaining the debt, and then starting this business anyways? And if it is business that you're learning in college, do you really think it's best to learn from somebody who's not actively running a business? You'd be running your business off of theory of somebody else's from years ago, where you would get eaten alive because the business landscape changes so quick day to day. You also accrue more debt than you earn. Let's say you accumulate $400,000 of debt and you make $100,000 a year with the job that you get from this degree that you get. Okay, well, you still have to survive, you still have to have a house, eat food, all of this stuff. So you go years that you're at school, being a broke college student, then you finally get a job, you make $100K a year, and let's say half of your income goes towards paying your student loan, which is very ambitious. That still takes you 8 years to pay off your loan. What happens then is within that 8 years, you stop studying. You're out of the learning phase. You're just in the workforce. By the time you're done paying it off in 8 years, you're even more locked into that situation, and that being an obligation of keeping the job. Then you're done learning, you don't want to jump back into learning to start a business. Plus, in school, you learn the opposite of how wealth works. They teach you time is money. You work a certain amount of hours, you get a certain amount of dollars. If you don't show up, you don't get paid. The number one rule in wealth building is disconnecting your income earning potential from your time. If you never fix that equation, you can't build wealth. But in school, they tell you that's exactly what you should be doing. They teach you how to work and be in a system instead of building the system and having it work for you. And they teach you acceptance versus abundance. I accept that I'm only going to make this much money. I accept that I'm going to have this much debt. I accept that I'm going to be doing this till I'm 65. Instead of thinking in other ways, I can retire early. You mean I can make money faster? You mean I can do this without having to physically be there? It's two completely different mindsets, and it seems like a minute thing, but it makes all the difference in the world when you see things abundantly. So let's dive in. I'm going to give you the secret sauce on how I was able to start the business and make 70K each month and more. This is the framework that I use to start selling my knowledge online and making a lot of money with it. Find a problem that you can solve and find out who values that solution the most. The more that solution impacts somebody's life, the more that you can charge. And the more desperate somebody is for that solution, the more they'll pay. This is a lethal combo if you get it right. I'll explain why. If you impact somebody through their health, wealth, or relationship, those are the three big buckets. If you could do one of those three, people will always pay to improve those. But even if you have an offer that doesn't. For example, I sold how to make music, and that wasn't directly correlated with those three. However, you can connect it. Have you ever seen a creative who wasn't able to create? It's really mentally draining. It's really hard on their mental health. And so their mental health starts affecting how they perform at work, which affects how much money they make, which affects their family, which starts affecting their relationships, which starts affecting their physical health. So there's different ways that you're able to tie a small solution to a bigger problem. And that's what you want to be able to do. And when I say who values the solution the most, is because the same solution for one person could be less valuable than to another person. If I was talking about weight loss and I had to choose who am I going to help? One, I could help CrossFit people lose weight, or two, I could help people who are overweight, obese, lose weight. Who do you think values that more? Who do you think is more desperate for that solution? If a CrossFit person is already working out, doing all this stuff, and he loses an extra 5 pounds, that's cool. That's nice to have, but it's not dramatically impactful for them. It's not going to change their life drastically. If I was to help somebody who was obese and they needed to lose 60, 70, 80, 100 pounds, that makes way more of a difference. Because then what happens? If they don't fix that, they could have a heart attack and die. That sounds morbid, but that's the truth, is that an obese person values losing weight more than a CrossFit person. And they're more desperate too, meaning that they're more willing to pay, which means it's a bigger impact on their life, which means you can charge more. So what do you know? What could you do? What problem could you solve that helps somebody dramatically? Okay, pick up something that you know well. And here's a hint. The past version of us is likely our ideal client. If you think about the position that you were in 5 years ago, 10 years ago, how much heartache would you save if you could learn from you today and what you know today? So what do you know really well? How did you fix it yourself? And maybe it's something that's really valuable, but we've known it for so long that we just assume everybody knows it and nobody really values the knowledge. I always knew music. I didn't know how well I knew music until I started speaking to other people. I didn't realize how much of the information was useful until I started sharing it on social media. So these things that we know deep down so well because we've been studying and learning about it for so long, you may not realize how valuable it is to somebody. So dig deep and think of some of those things, like what are you really good at? So next thing we want to do is map out where they are. This is where your client is and where they want to be. Now think of all the macro steps that they have to take to be able to reach that goal. If I want to get a music producer from somebody who is a beginner, knows their way around music a little bit, but doesn't know how to make a really good track, to making radio ready music, what do they need to know? Step 1, they need to know music theory. Step 2, they need to know how to program drums well. Step 3, they need to understand bass. Step 4, they need to know how to write melodies and chords. Step 5, they may need to learn how to arrange a song. Step 6, they need to mix, master, and polish all that stuff. What are the macro steps, the big milestones that they need to achieve to be able to have this outcome? In my case, it's make a really good track. Those are going to be essentially your modules that you're going to put together. And then the micro steps to reach that macro. To be able to understand music theory, they have to know scales, keys, time signatures. To know how to program drums, they need to understand snare, kick, hi-hat. Mixing, they need to understand compressors. You see what I'm saying? To accomplish the macro step, they need to have the micro steps. Those are your lessons. The macro steps are your modules. And if they hit every module, they come out with the goal. Okay? That's what you want to map out. That way you have your entire curriculum and you know exactly what you're going to be teaching. Next, you want to create your statement. I help niche get result without thing they don't want to do. What I'm going to break down, your niche is the audience. Who are you choosing? The result is the solution that you provide them. What do they want at the end of the day without the thing that they don't want to do? My example, I help music producers create radio-ready music without spending a ton of money on Skool. You want to pick your audience, the result, and without the thing they believe that they need to get or do, but it's not necessarily true. So it's not without struggling, right? They don't think that they need to struggle. What's something they think they need to do but it's not true? So for my example, I use expensive school. A lot of people think they need to go to expensive school to be able to make a career with music, where it's not true. So this is your first chance to break a myth that they have in their head within your first statement. So create that statement for yourself. Next thing, we want to choose your pricing. And the pricing should not be it should be a reflection of how the result impacts their life. I'm going to say that one more time because it's super important. The price should be a reflection of how the result impacts their life. Not your time, not your course, not your program. They don't want to pay for things. People don't want things. They want how their life is going to change when they're done. This is what's more valuable in their mind. And I promise you, they will. The result is more valuable in their mind. That's when they're willing to pay more. And I promise you, they will focus on exactly what you present. So if you're talking about your courses and you're saying like there's 28 modules, there's 57 lessons, that's what they're going to focus on. They're going to be like, well, I don't have time to sit down and watch that. Well, that's not exactly what I want. Like, I just want the thing. So if you focus on talking about the outcome, they're going to focus all their attention and be like, wow, that sounds amazing. That sounds great. That sounds like it's worth a lot. If you talk about the courses and the little pieces in between, they're going to focus on that and be like, that's not worth very much. So I promise you, what you focus on presenting is what they're going to focus on. Here's a bonus. If you make the cost a fraction of the result, it becomes a no-brainer. If you can make somebody $100,000 every year, you could charge $100,000, or you could charge 10 grand. And if you charge 10 grand to show them how to make $100,000, that's a 10x return in 1 year. That is a no-brainer. If you can prove that you can do that, they're dumb for saying no. So make it a no-brainer by making it a fraction of what the true result of your program is worth. So don't think about lowering your price. Quit thinking about, well, how can I make it cheaper? How can I make it more competitive? Don't think about lowering your price. Focus on raising the value. Reason being is because 0 is the floor on how much you can lower your price. You go below 0 and you're in debt. If you hit 0, you have no business. So there's a floor there. You can only go so low. And the floor is it's like right there. Whereas there's no ceiling on the value. You can always add more, give more, and charge more. Next thing you want to do, find people. Find people who are willing to buy. So this is traffic. So what we could do is we could seek them. So where are they hanging out now? If we had a Facebook group full of people who wanted to lose weight, moms who are looking to lose weight after giving birth, people who are into CrossFit, people who are music producers, they're all congregated in one place. It's concentrated. There's hundreds and thousands of them all in one place. You just have to infiltrate. They're already there. You don't have to make them up. They're already there. Facebook groups, Discord communities, Skool communities are a few places to start. The second thing you could do is attract people. What can I do to get their attention? You can create content that pertains to them on social media, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook groups. You could create a group. You could plug all those. This is for music producers. Create a group, give value there. So where can I put them all? You can put them on social media, but I want you to know that this is rented land, meaning that you don't want to build and have all your assets on rented land. They could pull the rug from under you at any time. They could change the algorithm at any time. And this isn't theory. Like, this happens. This happened to me to a degree, right? Like, I built a social media and Instagram full of music producers. And then I switched on them. I started talking about business and stuff like that. They're not all super into it. So it wasn't their fault. But what that meant was that the algorithm throttled me, because they were like, well, nobody likes what you're doing. So you're not going to get the reach anymore. So this happens constantly. And if anything, like, people's accounts get shut down all the time. So you want to be able to pull them off of any social media platform that you gather the attention and put them into an asset that you own. And an email list is the best one to do. So just start building your email list now. Start collecting emails. That way, whenever you send an email, you know that they always get the email. If you make a post on IG, 10% of your followers might see it, 20%, 50%. They're not all going to see it. With an email, you know it'll all land. Prove the knowledge. So you want to prove that you are knowledgeable in what you do and you can help somebody. When you can explain somebody's problem better than they understand it themselves, they automatically assume you have some kind of solution. And if you explain how they can get that solution, that's where they really trust that you know what you're talking about. So give, change, give, change. What that means is give value, change their belief. Give value, change their belief. Give value, change their belief, and just keep doing that with your social media posts. What I mean by giving value is, like, give them something tangible they can walk away with and be like, wow, I really want to follow this person because what they're saying is so important and really helpful. Changing their belief is breaking a limiting belief that they have now that's keeping them from getting to their goal, and instilling the belief you want them to have in order to progress or buy your thing. So I had to have my belief change that musicians would spend a lot of money, thousands of dollars, on learning how to play music. I thought that musicians would only pay like $50, right? But I had to have my belief change. So there was I had to watch content. Look, people, even if you had 10 people say no to you, but one person said yes, and you charged a lot of money, you still make a lot of money. That means you don't have to help everybody. So there's all these things that needed to shift for me to truly believe that I could sell high ticket. So create content like that around getting your audience to believe that. The important part is that you're constantly pumping out this content. That way you're constantly top of mind for your audience. And then what you can do is finally present something. Present the free training, present a webinar, present something where you get them all together and you can give something to them. No, cut that. The important part that is The important part is that you're constantly putting out this content. That way you're top of mind for your audience. That way when it's time to present them something, they're nurtured. They believe you. They trust you. Then you can present something and give a call to action. A call to action could be something as simple as, hey, comment this word, and then you add a word into your post. Everybody who comments, you send them a message and you start a conversation. This is where a personal conversation comes in. You DM them, you ask them about their goal around what you help with, what the biggest challenge is, what they've tried in order to fix that challenge, and what the priority level is. So this all stacks on top of each other, and I want you to understand that these questions are extremely important in the order. You want to ask them their goal, because a goal is something that we haven't obtained yet. Even if you're a multimillionaire and you're trying to be a billionaire, you're not a billionaire yet, and that's the goal. If you have a 6-pack but you want to get an 8-pack, like, you haven't reached that yet. So a goal is always something we haven't obtained yet. We need to set that as the bar, as the marker, so that when we ask the challenge question, we can ask, what's been the biggest challenge that's keeping you from getting to that goal? So now we're creating and widening this gap to show that the prospect needs our help or somebody's help. What have they tried in order to bridge that gap? So tried, clearly they're not at their goal yet. Clearly it's a challenge. So what they've tried is not working. That's why we ask that question. And we ask them, well, how much of a priority is this right now? Is this something that you're truly wanting to fix right now? Like, you need to fix this right now? Or is this something like kind of on the back burner? Now you know where their priority is on that. And if that's the case, what you want to do is just schedule a call with them, present a call. Hey, if I jump on a call with you and see if I can help, do you think that would be helpful? Do you want to do that? Cool. Now we jump on the phone, we ask them some questions and kind of see where they're at, get more details, and then we present them an offer to teach them this live. I will help you get to this result, and I will show you it all live. Then you jump on Zoom for the next month or so, jumping on live sessions and presenting everything that you had written down as far as all these different modules and all the lessons in between. So if you did 3 modules with them every week, then you could finish this, a 6-module type thing, in 2 weeks. So every day, jump on, do each lesson, finish with the module. Do every lesson, finish up the module. Do every lesson, finish up the module until you complete all of it with them. Then you're going to charge them a sliver of the final price that you thought of earlier in this video. And you're going to repeat this process. You're going to repeat this and get as many test clients as you can and set a deadline for yourself. Because when you sell this and you say, cool, give me $1,500, I'll teach you this live, we'll start next month. If that's your deadline next month, during that time, you want to get on as many students into this call, into this group lesson as possible, and set that deadline. Then you want to deliver it. And you want to make sure you record every single one of these sessions. That's the rough draft of your course material. And then you ask them for feedback while you're teaching them live. That way you find out if you're missing anything that you need to plug in. Then at the end of the final lesson, ask for a video testimonial from these students. On Zoom, you can record it live. They're excited because they just went through all of it. And now you get a really good testimonial. The way that you should structure your coaching business to buy your time back is once you've recorded all these, that's the first draft of your course. So send everybody through that course, then have them come on weekly group coaching calls. This keeps you from having to just do one-on-ones so that you can answer any questions they have about the course. If you plug them all in a community, you'll have a bunch of students, some of them advanced, and they can help some of the newer students. And that's where you have them all in a community, and it's just a really powerful dynamic to have them all in one place. Then you give them messenger access so that if they have any quick questions, they can just send them over to you. Because if you think about doing one-on-ones and you do it every week, that's an hour every week where you're just shoving information down their throat, and they go home and they're like, I forgot this thing. What was that thing? What was that thing he said? And then they see you next week. By that time, you're on the next topic and they forgot what the question was, and that just hinders their growth. So instead, you should give them messenger access to just answer any quick questions so that they can keep moving. Plus, it avoids more unnecessary one-on-ones from you. I still think one-on-ones are important. Those are optional though, but you should be saving, if you do one-on-ones, you should save one-on-ones for specific tailored issues. So if I'm talking about music, right, and I'm like, here's how you play a C major chord, that should be done in a course. That's something you have to repeat to every student anyways. You might as well do it in a course. The one-on-one should be focused on specific things for that person, like if their technique is off or something like that. That's how you make your one-on-ones more valuable. But if you structure your whole coaching program like this, as far as deliverables, it's going to buy back a lot more of your time. So from here, what we do is we just start repeating and refining. This is what business is about. You don't get everything good, solid, done, perfect the first time. You just have to do it. And then you repeat and you refine. Focus on things like changing the full price. The better that you get, you change the price and you just keep increasing it, right? Make a better course. If you created all the course in one take live, maybe you can go back and re-record and polish each video. And if you missed a lesson, you could plug it into your course. If you missed something important, but you didn't realize till later, plug it in later. Spend the money on ads to get more traffic. You can keep posting organically, but honestly, if you turn on ads, it's just a more predictable way. We'll talk about that in a different thing, but I'm not going to go deep into that. Get better at sales. Like, how can we handle these phone call conversations to where we know it like the back of our hand? Get more testimonials, get more results for students, get more students in the door, and just have more testimonials. That way you build up this catalog of proof. Then you raise your price to get more people and more results. So that is how I would structure my business, which is how I do structure my business. And yes, one of the most important things is making sure that you're continuously finding more people and getting more traffic. And like I said, one of the best ways and most predictable ways to do it is ads. So if you want to learn how to write really good ads and have a really strong marketing message, I'll leave a video thing right here for you to watch next. If you need help growing your coaching business, I'm going to leave a link down in the description for you to book a call if this was helpful to you, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.